Hey, you do it from our and this is Tenenbaum. Ari Tenenbaum, Reb Hershel, Agudas Yisroel. And before we start, because of the matzav that we have in the world now in Eretz Yisrael, and I know whenever we spoke to Mrs. Tenenbaum, her heart was always for everyone in Klal Yisrael, especially in Eretz Yisrael. So we'll start with a kapitel Tilm Kuf Lamed, and we'll say Hachaim Kol Yisrael. Shira Malois, Emamakim, Krasicha Adoinoi, Adoinoi, Shema Bekoili, Yana Zachar Shuba, is the Koil Tachnunoi, Emaboinoi, Sishmaya, Adoinoi, Miyamoid, Kim Chaslicha, Taman Tibarei, Kvisi Adoinoi Kipsa Nafshi, Vilidvaroi, Hoicholti, Nafshi Adoinoi, Mishoimerim Laboiker, Shoimerim Laboiker, Yachel Yisroel Adoinoi, Kimadnoi Chesed, Varbei Moipedus, Uyivdes Yisrael, Koil Aboinoi, Savachenu Kol Beis Yisrael, Anasunim Btzror Veshivyo, Haim Dem Bein Beyam Bashra, Amokim Mirachem Aleim Yatzim Btzror Levacha, Mapel Eloi, Meshibit Legula, Ashok Alav Zman Kodev Noimar. Amen. This week's parsha is the parsha of building a mishkan, building a place where the Shekhinah could come, Kabiyachol, the Shekhinah that comes Mel Yoinim, comes down and dwells in our midst. The Bansham says, like the Medrash says, make me a place where I could come to be with you. You know, when a person does a shidduch, you always say the zivik should be oily yafa. The zivik should be good. Yafa is gematria 95. So the Satan Rebbe Zechon Baruch once said, 95th mitzvah in the Torah is Vasili Migdosh. When we go to a shidduch, we daven that this home that they're going to build is going to be Mishkan Ma'at Migdosh. Like the Al-Shach says, it doesn't say Yishkanti B'soichoi or B'soicha, B'soicham. Every Jewish home is a Mishkan Ma'at if you let the Shekhinah come in. One way that the Shekhinah comes in, Chazal teaches, if this Shalom B'nayim, if the husband and wife respect each other, so then you have the Ish is Yud, and Ish shows a Hey, you have Hashem's name there, and the Shekhinah comes to dwell there. Chas v'sholom, if not, it becomes Ish. But if the respect that husband and wife, I was Zoicha since I came. You know, Reb Hershel was so special to us, and his wife was very, very special to us. Every time we spoke to her, but the shalom in the home, the peacefulness that you came into the house, anytime we came into the house, the peacefulness between them, the peacefulness in the home, the Shekhinah was there. You felt the Shekhinah there. You felt it's a place where the Rebbeinu Shalom, this is what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. Every home that we build, is the Mikdash Mat, the Mishkan Mat, the Jewish home. The Jewish home is a place where the Shekhinah comes if you let him come in. Wherever you let my name, you blench my name. This home, every time I met her, the royalty you saw in her, the Benois Melachim that she was, the Benois Melachim, her regal, her parents and everything, the cheshivas you saw in her, every word that came out of her mouth was pearls. And the way she gave cover to every person, the way she helped every person, and together with her husband, what they did for everyone. It's amazing. Building a second home is not always easy. Building a second home, children who were orphaned, and now they get a stepmother. A few years ago, Rosh Hashiva came to me and he lost his wife. He said he doesn't want to get married. He's scared. In this home, was unbelievable. The love between her and Reb Hershel's children. Her own children, the special son every time came to our shul. There was no two families. It was one family. It wasn't mixed families. It was one family. The Bauman family and the Tenenbaum family became one family. They were one in every way. The cheshivas that the Tenenbaum children gave to her, the kibbut avaim, where the daughter came to live with her, to be with her. The kibbut avaim is unbelievable. To be mechabed a mother like they were mechabed, Mrs. Tenenbaum, and the way it's two ways. It's a two-way street, because the cover that she gave them, to us, it was an honor in our Bais Medrash to have her. It was an honor to have her in our Bais Medrash, to have a woman and her caliber. Eishes chayil miyimtza, a woman of valor, miyimtza, to find such a woman. Noida b'shalom ba'ala. If you hear Reb Hershel, because she had this wife, this special wife, she was so special in every way. The caring about every person in the shul. I remember everyone, my Rebbetzin loved her. She was such a person who gave away so much from her warmth, from her heart. Anything you needed, anything that had to be done, she was there together with her husband, together with Reb Hershel. I wasn't zoichet to know her before, but just from seeing her children. The Dailim say, how do you know who a parent is? Kama b'nei yashrua. The children are the biggest testimony who the parents are. When you see her children, the son and daughter, their families, the choshev families they have, and the Mashadach with the Kamenetsky family, the Bianca, going to Nosson Kamenetsky's going to brough, and the whole mishpacha, both mishpachas, and you see how choshev they are. The chashivas. I remember Reb Hershel's levaya, when Irving spoke, he spoke like one of the Gedolim. He spoke every word. I was listening to every word that he said. I was mamish listening to a Agudah speak, and his davening in Bais Medrash. But this is who she was. She was a person who personified what a Yiddish mama should look like, what a Yiddish wife should look like. If you want to see a benois melachim, you want to see a Yiddish tochter, a Yiddish mama, a Yiddish vab, a Yiddish baba, you just have to look at her. Her whole demeanor was a demeanor that showed chashivas, showed what it means to be a real Bas Yisrael. Her dveikus in Hashem, her dveikus in the midas of Hashem. Ma'ani chanun avato chanun, ma'ani rachum avato rachum. Her care for every time there's a war. When I spoke to her, she was crying for what's happening there to Yisrael. I'm sure her neshama now goes up to Shemayim and surely gonna go and plead to the Rebbeinu Shloim. Plead to the Rebbeinu Shloim. But we lost now a pearl. We lost a beautiful pearl, a beautiful jewel in the crown of our shul. Agudah, which was so special to Reb Hershel and his wife. Agudah lost one of its choshevs, the members now. Agudah lost a woman that represented a real Agudah woman. Agudah lost a woman who showed us what's the mind of Yiddish Mama, how she acted, how she spoke. Her demeanor, never speaking bad about anybody, looking the good. Every time I could see her face now, speaking to her, smiling with a beautiful smile, with beautiful caring, and always putting away machloikas, putting away kindness in anybody. She was zoichet arichas yomim. The meharachta yomim. Chazal ask, when someone is zoicha to long life, what's chus? What chus do you have? Chazal say all the chusim. One of the chusim is that you never got angry in the house. You always made sure the house was a place of calmness. A house a place of simcha. A house a place of caring. Opening the house for any gadol that came. For parlor meetings. For gedolim. I remember when the Pnei Menachem came to their house. I remember when the Rebbe came, when anyone, the home was always open. When I made a simcha, was their simcha. The simcha they had, one of my children, what they did, they made me feel like part of their family. Part of their family, part of Reb Hershel and Ida's family. We felt that, and every time we needed anything, Reb Hershel was always there together with his wife. So if you see Arichas Yomim, you know there's a schus for that Arichas Yomim. Usually the schus is kibbut aveim. I'm sure the kibbut aveim that she had, because we see a woman living so long, you know there was a schus, the ma'aricha yomecha, Chazal teach us. Kibbut aveim means that you respect the generations before. So the keli ba'aveyu el ke'obe we say every day in the shira. We pronounce Zekeli. We pronounce Yom Rebbeinu Shloim. Banveyu, and I act like you. Banveyu, and I build a mishkan, and I build my beautiful home. A home that the Shekhinah could come in. A home where the home was full of Erlichkeit, Yerushalayim, Simcha Hachaim, Simcha for the Rebbeinu Shloim. Okay, says Rashi, Lo yani tchilus HaKedusha. I know I'm coming from generations before. I'm coming from roots before. She came from such a chosh of a family. And you saw in her the dignity that she had, the ehrlichkeit she had, the caring that she had, the beautiful midos that you saw in her, the emes midah of Kol Yisrael. If you wanted to see someone who personifies being a Yiddish tochter, the Benois Melachim, that was her, was Mrs. Ari Tenenbaum, Yehudis, Bas Yisroel. Now that we have to say goodbye to her, I really feel bad that I can't be personally there. But Rabbi Shem has his ways. I didn't even know it was snowing till 20 minutes before I had to go. I was going to get a ride to come, because really, she is Agudah. Reb Hershel and his wife, they're Agudah, they're our Bais Medrash. And the Bais Medrash that's known for the Torah and Chesed, the men and women from our Bais Medrash, that's known for Torah and Chesed, that was the Tenenbaum home. And that was Mrs. Ida Yehudis. One should hope that she should be Lisa's Yosher for the whole family, and for the family of Agudah, the family of Toronto, the family of Kol Yisroel. I remember when, beginning these first years I was here, Reb Hershel and his wife used to come to the convention, the Agudah convention, and she was so proud always. She was so proud of Reb Hershel, and Reb Hershel was so proud of her. So proud. It says, Zivik Sheinu is Lefi Ma'asav. The second Zivik is, the first Zivik is Nishmas Bashert. The second Zivik the Rebbeinu Shem gives a person is according what you deserve. Oh wow, Reb Hershel. If you got such a wife, and she got such a husband, Lefi Ma'asav, the beautiful home that they had. Now, that home is closing up. Reb Hershel, as long as she was there, we still had Reb Hershel. We still had her. Now that she leaves this world and she's saying goodbye to us, and we're saying goodbye to her, we'll miss you. We'll miss your company. We'll miss your Chachma and Bina that you had. The Chachma and Bina that you had. The Rebbeinu should help that we should be Zoicha, that she goes up to Shemayim. We know how much you cared about every person, how much you cared for Klal Yisrael, how much you cared for Eretz Yisrael. She should go up to Shemayim and daven to Rebbeinu Shalom. Rebbeinu Shloim, if you have a daughter like her, she could be pleased to Rebbeinu Shloim. It says that Lasid Lavai, Mashiach will come b'schus Rachel Ameinu, b'schus of Rachel. The others come and doesn't help. When Rachel comes, that schus of Rachel will bring Mashiach. The schus of a woman like Rachel, the schus of Yehudis is her name. Yehudis, is the Yehudis is Yehudis by the time of the Chashmonaim. Yehuda shows someone who was koifren by the Tzrurah and made in Rebbeinu Shloim. A Yehudi, that's why Yidna called Yehudi. The made to Rebbeinu Shloim, thanked Rebbeinu Shloim for everything. Every time we asked, even when she wasn't well, Dank the Rebbeinu Shloim, Dank the Bashefer. That was her motto. Rebbeinu Shloim hoped that she should be able to ask the Bashefer. Here's a Rachel coming up to you. Discuss her, we should be Zoicha, the whole family, everyone, the one unit family, combined family, which was one family. Rebbeinu Shloim helped that the whole family should only see good things. Everyone should be gesund. And Agudah, that was so dear to you, everyone in Agudah. And Toronto, Los Angeles, Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, and should be Zoicha to see the Gula of Volasi and Goyel, Moch Hashem Dim Al Kaponim, should be Zoicha to see the Yeshua B'Meir B'Yomein.
We are here today to pay our respects to an extremely special woman. To me, and my dear sister, of course, it is a particularly sad and heartbreaking day as we say goodbye to our dear mother, Yehudis Bas Devora. To you, the family and friends of the Nifteris, it is also a very solemn, mournful, and bitter day. You have all, and we have all, lost a woman who was a true gift to the city of Toronto. A woman who shone her brilliant light unto anyone fortunate enough to come in contact with her. From the moment she stepped into this wonderful city of Toronto as the proud wife of one of the city's shining stars, Reb Hershel, Reb David Olav Shalom and Zechrein Lebracha, she not only blended so seamlessly in with the city's uber class of society, but also became an integral component of the amazing, legendary, and superior community that reaches far and wide in the world of philanthropy and chesed. Her home on Timberlane Drive was the destination for not just Kol Davar Shebekdusha, but she also served as a shining example of the meaning of partnering and the principle by Asli Migdash B'Shachanti B'Soichem. She was a true Akeres Habayis. And Rebbeinu Shalom knew that when it came time to provide for Moisdis, for Aniyim, for causes benefiting Torah, Chesed, and Ma'asim Tovim, you didn't need a Waze application to locate a venue. You knew that that location was 44 Timberlane Drive. Whether it was a parlor meeting for the local yeshiva of Ner Yisrael, or an asifa for causes ranging from Biker Cholim to Beis Yaakov, or anything at all relating to Agudas Yisroel of America and the Agudas Yisroel of Toronto, the home of Hershel and Ari Tenenbaum, was its parlor. I am told by many people here in Toronto that the concept of giving, the concept of tzedakah, the concept of philanthropy was something that the Tenenbaum family, Tzvi Mordcha, known lovingly as Reb Hershel, and Yehudis were pillars of that concept. Truth be told, this community of Toronto was blessed by the Ribbono Shel Olam with an abundance of wealth and success. But as in every community, there is always a leader, and so to speak, a trailblazer that paves the way for others to understand the importance of giving. The amounts of tzedakah that emanated from the Tenenbaums was truly legendary. And if there ever was an example of an Ezer Kenegdoi and a Keres Habayis, an Eshes Chayil, it was the partner of Reb Hershel, my very dear mother, Yehudis. And as is well known, the Tenenbaum household was a stancia for anything and everything related to the Heilige Chassidus of Ger. The Heilige Ger Rebbe, the Bais Yisroel, Schusa Yudin Aleinu Val Kol Yisroel, was instrumental in bringing together my dear mother and Reb Hershel. Yes, he was the one, the Bais Yisroel, who advised Reb Hershel to take Mrs. Yehudis Tenenbaum as his wife. And the naches that was enjoyed by that decision and counsel from the Rebbe stretched far and wide, from Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh to Toronto, Canada, to the United States of America, and to every stretch of the world where the Tenenbaums would provide their grace and magnanimity. I recall with great reverence an episode that took place in Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. It was the evening of, as it's called, Vachnacht, the night before the bris of the son of Rabbinim Levin, the grandson of the icon of Pinkin Levine. It is at that occasion that tefillos and learning are offered on behalf of the Uber, the baby, in preparation for him joining Klal Yisrael. And the bris, of course, would follow the following morning. I and my dear mother came to the home of Rabbinim that night for Vachnacht. And behind us, not far behind us, on Rehov Amos, he lived at Amos 25, as I remember, we heard the Rash of Hasidim accompanying the Ger Rebbe himself, the Bais Yisroel, who was also on his way to pay a visit in honor of the Vachnacht, of the Rebbe's great nephew. We hustled our way up those stairs to the apartment, and literally, mamish, on our heels was the Rebbe, the Bais Yisroel, and his large entourage. As we entered the door of the apartment, the Rebbe's Mishamshim, his followers, his chassidim, made it up the stairs and acted as a barrier to allow the Rebbe to enter the apartment unencumbered by the large flock of chassidim. my mother and I, were already in the entry hall of the apartment when the Rebbe entered the door, and the Mishamshim quickly closed the door to prevent a stampede of Hasidim from entering the apartment. And it was at that very moment that the Heiliger Bais Yisroel stood face to face with my dear mother. It was a moment, certainly for me, frozen in time. And I will never, ever forget the nod that the Rebbe gave to my mother, who herself stood in absolute awe of this great tzaddik. Those familiar with Ger and its anhaga are keenly aware that gender separation was a hallmark of Ger. At no time would the Rebbe accept an audience with a woman, but yet there they stood within a foot of each other. And what did the Rebbe do? He acknowledged her with that nod that will remain with me for the rest of my life. Mother, soon you may be able to return that nod as you enter the Olam Hoemes, and who knows, possibly be greeted by the Beis Yisroel, Zochreinu Tzaddik V'Kodesh L'Bracha. Your home was, as I said, my dear mother, a true stancia for Ger, and when the soon to be crowned Rebbe, the Pnei Menachem, came to Toronto, it was again at 44 Timber Lane Drive, where Harav Pinchas Menachem Alter, Zochreinu L'Bracha, made his temporary home away from home. Your home was teeming with Hasidim, as the large contingent of Ger Hasidim of Toronto came, Aufzunehmen, the holy Rosh Yeshiva, on this particular Shabbos. And as I touched upon a moment ago, Ger was very strict when it came to gender separation. Men would sit in one room, while the women would sit in an adjacent room. Having seen this with my very own eyes, I was there, I can describe a deviation from that practice by telling you that the Pnei Menachem paused as he held the Kiddush cup, and finally, after what seemed like an extended period of time, the Rosh Yeshiva said, these were his words, he said, "Vi is the Balabusta." And all of the Hasidim present stirred as you, dear mother, were ushered into the dining room to be present for the Rosh Yeshiva's Kiddush. This is not something they would typically see. So it seemed as if you, dear mother, were the rare exception when it came to being in the presence of the great and Heiliger Rebbes of the Ger dynasty, stretching all the way from Kotsk, Yerushalayim, and to Toronto, Canada. Your history is a rich one indeed. Born to the legendary Thur Neshoichet, Reb Yisroel Tzvas, you embodied the very essence of what a Beis Yaakov girl was meant to be. The many stories you told us of that amazing home you were ripped away from remains etched in my mind forever. Your bravery and determination to survive the horrors of Hitler, Yamach Shemon V'Zichron, have long been documented. The unforgettable theme of your survival and of your undying commitment to stay strong and determined rings so loud and true, and I can hear your words even today. Whenever, as you would say, whenever I faced adversity, I saw my father's angelic face, and he is what led to my survival. You not only survived, but you lived to build another world with my father, Harav. He just buckled. So sorry. With my father, Harav Moshe Irving Bauman, Zachmein de Lavracha. You were the epitome of what a wife, a mother, and what a true heroine looks like. You were a brilliant muster, an example for your children, your community, and for everyone that marveled at your selfless devotion to your family. On my behalf, and on Dolly's behalf, I want to thank the entire Tenenbaum family. And most particularly, we extend to our dear sister Ruthie our heartfelt thanks for being there for Mother throughout the years. Ruthie, know this, without you, this last difficult journey would have been an impossible one to navigate. The countless trips to the hospital and sleepless nights there as you watched over Mother were nothing short of noble, gallant, and selfless. And this was not just for a day, a week, a month, or even a season. No, it was years of difficult and time-consuming care and affection that you so heroically displayed. Words do very little in expressing our appreciation for your efforts, and we will forever remember and recall your spirit, your courage, and your astonishing valor. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I have to, at this time, ask you for mechila for not being there for you, Mother, and with you throughout this very difficult process. Even through, I should say, your illness, your smile brightened the spaces wherein you graced us with your love and light. You now go to the proverbial better place. And even though that's true, I proclaim for all to hear that any place that you were in was the best place one could ever hope to experience. You will be sorely missed. That goes, of course, without saying, but the vivid memories that we harbor of you will serve to shed some light on the sad and dark days that are certainly to follow us. Unforgettable is the word, and we will always love you is the expression with which you should travel. Hilama v'slanetzach, Nochu Hashem Elokim Dima Mikol Pun.
How does one begin to unfold the life and describe the essence of a 99-year-old bubby who has been so a part of our lives? There's so much to say, so much to study, and so much to learn from. Please allow me to give you just a glimpse of what it has been like having Yehudis Bais Yisroel in our lives, a woman we called Ari Tenenbaum. To some, she is mother. To others, she is Bubby, Tante Ida, the Bubberino, and to everyone we can agree, a superhuman of strength, perseverance, and a true Eshes Chayil. I personally have had the privilege to know Bubby for over 30 years, and in all those years, I have seen only goodness and Yiras Shamayim. Bubby was born on December 27th, 1924 in Tarnow, Poland. She often spoke about her childhood years growing up in her Hasidic family. She mentioned how her father would sing beautiful nigunim and always have a Dvar Torah to say at the Shabbos table. It's no wonder that while sitting at our Shabbos or Yontif table, Bubby always looked forward to hearing a Dvar Torah and enjoyed singing Zemiros with all of us. Her mother was quite the balabasta, hosting for people in her house, as well as hosting a local soup kitchen for poor families. And Bubby would go with her on many occasions to visit the sick in the hospital. During the war years, Bubby was between 16 and 20 years old. She was in several concentration camps, including Plaszow, where she witnessed terrible atrocities. But through all of that, she always kept her emunah that she learned from her saintly parents. It was that emunah that enabled her to make it through those very difficult years. She would speak to Beis Yaakov's in Toronto and Los Angeles, retelling her experiences and making sure that it would not be forgotten. There were many stories that she used to tell, but the one that stands out is the time that a hungry man came in and asked for a menashka, her soup bowl. She had a rachmanis on him and gave him her one and only prized possession. You see, in a concentration camp there, without a menashka, one couldn't get their ever so sparse daily rations. She literally risked her life to help a Yid, not knowing if he would return it or not. When Bubby left her father for the last time in the Warsaw ghetto before being shipped off to a concentration camp, her father's parting words to her were, "Du bist a Yid," you are a Jew. That was Bubby's banner. She personified what it means to be a Yid. We're all familiar with the Chazal mentioned in this past week's parsha of one who purchases an Eved Ivri. He's obligated to care for him with ever great sensitivity. The master must prioritize limited resources like a pillow or a blanket and give it to the Eved. The Panovich Rav, who helped so many people revive themselves after the Holocaust and gave of his own ruchnius and gashmius, says the reason why this halacha applies, even though there's also a concept of chayecha kodem, is because a Yid cannot sleep well if he knows that alongside him is a tired and worn person without a pillow. This is the way of a nasa v'nishma person. He conducts himself ki ish echad, v'lev echad, forfeiting his own property and comfort for the benefit of others. Nishma means that we hear another person's cries and plight, and we do what we can to help. Klal Yisrael at Har Sinai promised Na'aseh v'nishma. They promised to listen and always take action, being kind and helpful towards others. This was our Bubby. It began with her menashka and carried her through her life, caring for others. Bubby, your family will, Mirza Hashem, follow you in your footsteps, and we will think of you when we do chasadim. The emunah that you had is now etched into the DNA of our family. While there were 6 million people who died al Kiddush Hashem, Bubby lived al Kiddush Hashem. She made the most of her life, caring for all, and appreciated that she was spared and made it an example of for her family and her friends and her community, both in Los Angeles and Toronto. She lived by Naaseh V'Nishma. At an interview that Bubby gave 5 years ago about her life, the person interviewing her asked, "What message would you like to impart on to your future generations?" Bubby answered, "The most important thing in life is midos and chesed. Be kind to your fellow man." Bubby was always known as a regal woman of grace and elegance. She was a magnet to her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. She loved to hear about every chachma and story about a grandchild. Bubby, together with both Irving Bauman and Ari Tenenbaum, loved to host gedolim, making parlor meetings in their homes, were pillars of the Los Angeles and Toronto communities. Bubby was the most gracious hostess, setting a most elegant and delectable table. Irving Bauman, as we just heard, was a tremendous baltztaka, but Bubby was by his side the entire time. Bubby was active in the Bikkur Cholim here in Toronto. She made everyone feel good with her comforting words, witty sense of humor, and her loving embrace. I still remember the time when my mother met Bubby for the first time. She immediately fell in love with her. That feeling is what everyone felt about her. She loved people. Bubby made the Bauman Tenenbaum family feel like one large family. Bubby, you adored playing with the children, spoiling them, taking them shopping, or going out to lunch. Everyone wanted you as their adopted Bubby. Everyone cherished the time with you. Your famous Bubby cookies, your kreplach, which you sent with all sorts of travelers to make sure we were all well-stocked, were legendary. We're going to keep up the tradition and making your signature apple strudel too. We couldn't leave the house without a taste of your famous yapsik. Bubby, your heart was larger than life. You cared. You really cared. When we would visit, when Kasha was working in the house years ago, you would give us money and give it to Kasha as a tip before we left and made sure that we said thank you. Bubby, you have taught us so much. You have taught us how to be a mother and a wife. You've taught us to have a forgiving heart. You taught us to be kind to others, to stand up straight, always say thank you, never chew gum, how to sing and dance, how to have a sense of humor, how to love your fellow man, and never send someone out of the house empty-handed. You are the Bubby that we all thought would be in our lives forever. Who's going to sing to the next generation the lullaby, I Li Li Lu, while scratching their head? You would always leave your mark in a room filled with people. Your heavenly scent would not dissipate. The feelings you would leave on people would remain. It's hard to imagine a life without you in it. Now, as you leave us, the matriarch of our family of 99 years, we thank Hashem for allowing us to be zoicha to have you in our lives. We have learned so much from you, and we hope that we have made you proud. Your menashka is your crown as you go to the Kisei HaKavod, and hopefully we can emulate your incredible midos and chasadim and bring you much nachas in Gan Eden. You have been zoicha to see 5 generations of children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and Baruch Hashem, great-great-grandchildren. We will always cherish the time we had with you. You will forever be in our hearts as the Bubby of grace, elegance, humor, warmth, generosity, devotion, love, and care. And we will love you forever, and you will live on for generations to come through all of our memories. I'd also like to reiterate the words of my father-in-law to give Akar Satov that the family has to Ruthie for her absolutely selfless devotion for so many years, not leaving Bubby's side at all and being so involved in every decision. We have absolutely no words to adequately thank you. Bubby, please be a Melech Yosher for all of us and bring the Geula b'mehera b'yameinu. Yila ha'mavas ha'netzach ha'mach Hashem Elokim timam kol ha'cham.
It is obviously with tremendous sadness that we're all here to say goodbye to our mother, our grandmother, our great-grandmother, great-great-grandmother, sister-in-law, and friend. But it's also a tremendous honor. It's a tremendous honor to send her off with the life that she lived. And it really is the end of an era. She was the last of her friends. She was the last of her immediate family from her world, the old world. And as she departs for the next world, this is not only our chance to say goodbye, but it's also our chance to thank her for all that she was and all that she gave to us. This is our last chance to be Makir Tov. Bobby has given us the most incredible gifts in her lifetime, and gifts that could not have been given by others in the same way that she did. And when I say gifts, I don't mean superficial gifts like cards or Baba cookies, things like that. What I mean is lessons and examples that we can take with us, that we can only hope to incorporate into who we are. There are so many, but I want to focus on just three. The first gift that Bobby gave to us is the gift of tenacity. Life kept trying to knock Bobby down again and again and again. I don't know if there's anyone in this room who can truly comprehend the enormity of having her family taken from her in the most cruel fashion. Many of us have heard her many stories of survival, and I'm sure that the ones we've heard are only but mere examples of hundreds more. But despite all of those, she got back up to rebuild her life again from nothing, every time. With her loving and supportive husband, Rabbi Moshe Irving Bauman, all of a sudden, she built a family, she built a business, she built a home. She went to LA, she created a name for herself in a new country, a new language, and a new culture. But with the passing of Rabbi Bauman, she was forced to restart again. And rebuild she did, with another loving and supportive husband, with additional new stepchildren, a new home, new friends, and then another new country. She again created that name for herself, together with our beloved Ari Hershel, and they were known as paragons of this community. And after many years of living a wonderful life with Ari, she lost him too. Bobby would have every excuse in the world to withdraw into herself after any one of these junctions. Any one of these tragedies in her life could be cause for years of therapy in today's coddled, delicate world. But despite all this, Bobby always went on, and always with a smile for everyone, especially her family. You know, how can any of us say that we don't have the time or the energy or the headspace to overcome the challenges that we have in our lives? Not to say that we don't have challenges in our lives, we do. But in those times, we just need to remember how Bobby would have positively pushed through every time. So that was the gift of tenacity. The second gift that she gave us was a gift of generosity. There are many ways that people can be generous. The most obvious type of generosity that comes to mind is giving money, giving to charities for family, etc. But while Bobby and Ari Hershel certainly were generous in that way, Bobby was also generous with the one thing that only she could give, which is her own time. She was generous with her volunteering at Mount Sinai in particular, helping patients and their families who were going through very difficult times, just to brighten their day in any way that she could. She hosted, in her giving, she hosted Auntie Devorah constantly. She even took her on her honeymoon with Ari Hershel. That's pretty impressive. She visited the sisters of Ari Hershel's first wife, the mother of my father and his siblings. Incredibly special as well. She hosted noted Rabbanim, Rosh Yeshiva, Meshalachim, parlor meetings in her home, as already been said. She would speak at our schools and despite her childhood and about her childhood and experiences in the war, despite how hard it was for her to do so. She would always get emotional and very choked up. She hosted her family, including extended family, at every Yontav and Chag, and how we would love those parties. There was no limit for what Bubby was willing to give and when to give it. As a personal story, she loaned me her car when I wanted to get engaged to my wife, Naomi. She loaned it to me so I could drive in style to pick her up for the proposal. And when I went to come and get the car from her at the house, she wasn't home. But I panicked, the door was locked, but I saw a note on the door. And this note says, "Dear Ari, the keys are under the mat, and good luck." And sure enough, the keys were under the mat. And I've kept that note. That note is in a photo album that we kept because it was a symbol of her giving nature, her love for us, and her being willing to share anything that she had with others. She gifted us that gift of generosity. The third gift was Bubby's, the gift of love, the endless capacity to love. And it's always amazed me how she's able to do that. As a child, I just took for granted that she made me feel that when I entered in the room, that I was her entire world. But I say I took for granted only because as an adult, I realized she made all of us feel that way. It was truly a joy to watch her and Zadie Hershel interact. I never was zecha to see her interact with Rabbi Bauman, obviously. But the way that she would interact with Zadie Hershel, anything that he would say was the funniest, was the best. She just loved him, and she exuded that love back. The way she would beam when Irving or Dolly would come for a visit, you can't adequately describe that love. She would beam at every single public appearance that we would have as children, whether it was the kindergarten school performance to university graduations or calls to the bar. She was always there beaming. She never missed a single one. She would constantly remind me how she braved a snowstorm when I was born to come and meet me at the hospital. And when I say constantly remind me, in the last years, almost every visit that would somehow come up. But it was her labor of love that was special to her, of how she made it down there. The way she would be with her friends, one friend in particular, Saba Zolti Alei Shalom, the way they would just talk and laugh, it would just, you could feel that the love was palpable in the room. She would take such pride in each one of her children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren, and in her Bubby way, grossly exaggerate their accomplishments. But in her mind, they were not exaggerations at all. They were real. I have a vivid and beautiful memory from Michael and Whitney's wedding when during their speech, they welcomed Bubby. They welcomed her for coming. And the entire room burst into applause. And I remember she stood up and she waved. And it was that mutual love of everyone for Bubby and Bubby back. She just stood there like a queen, just reveling in this applause. I would love to see the video of that again. It was such a beautiful memory. She would love to speak at any of our simchas and express her love to whoever was celebrating. I remember at my daughter's bat mitzvah, she wasn't slated to speak, but she just asked for the microphone. And she took it, and she made a beautiful speech. She did the same at my brother's Shever Brachas in her backyard that she hosted. And I'm sure she's done it countless more times. She was just moved to share her love with others. She couldn't contain herself. Just give me that mic. I got to tell everyone how much I love this person. But in recent years, her capacity to give was greatly diminished. And she was fortunate to receive back love from so many. In particular, first and foremost, has been said by everyone, she received that love from Ruthie, who cared for her daily for years in a row. Ruthie dedicated a dedication that is rarely seen, if ever. She also received much love from the Toronto community and from the Agudah community in particular. They were exceptionally kind and supportive of her and her family. Regular visits from many people in the community, but in particular from Phyllis Friedman and her family, from Saul Annisfeld and family, Goldie Hauer, Vivian Mermelstein, and many others. They brought Bambi that much needed company and love that she deserved. We also want to extend a very special thank you to Shelly Botnick of Echo for her unwavering support anytime, day or night, for Bubby. Also, a very special thank you to Erna, who did not leave Bubby's side for years, day in and day out. And because of that support and love of all these people, Bubby was able to maintain those high spirits in her last years. So that was her third gift. Her gift to us was a gift of love, and people were able to gift that back to her. So these three gifts, tenacity, generosity, and love, what we do with these gifts is now up to every single one of us in the room. These were gifts that until recently she would constantly give to us. We took for granted that we could keep getting them, even when it was very hard for her in recent years. But sadly, Bubby is unable to give us these gifts anymore. But if we, everyone here, accept these gifts, internalize them, learn from her, and continue to make Bubby a part of us, then she will continue to live on through us. Bubby, we love you, and we will think of you and miss you always.
Definitely have the Bubby crying gene. And I found myself on the way here telling everyone that I met about Bubby. The flight attendant, the Uber driver, started talking to them about Bubby. And the reaction on their faces, to me, it seemed like the people that used to encounter Bubby in her lifetime, like it was a different type of encounter. Like they knew that they met someone that was an extraordinary person. Very shortly, Bubby will be asked, Tzipistali Yeshua. And Bubby will be able to look with a straight face and say, every single day, ich hab gesagt, nicht gedei gedien. Spell, ist nicht kein Cholem. Mehr sein. You know, we ascribe a label, a survivor, like it's some kind of demographic, like it's a category of people. And can we fathom the existence of a survivor? Can we fathom the pain of going through that? Can we fathom what it's like maybe every time Bubby closed her eyes, what images came up? I can't. And to still have faith in humanity after seeing such, not witnessing, after experiencing such decay, such moral decay, of just an embodiment of evil, of Nazi Germany, Yamach Shemam v'Zichram, and to still have a smile on her face, and to not chas v'shalom, by any stretch of the flexible imagination, not to deprive anyone of their modern day pain and trauma. All of that is certainly real, but we don't delude ourselves to think that we can fathom what it means to have survived what Bubby lived through. But as a kid, if you told me that this happened to my bubby, I would think you're nuts. This is the most bright and gleeful and joyful and playful bubby that I could imagine. And she experienced open miracles to survive. And she would very articulately tell her story and educate not every survivor is able to do that. Different people processed it differently. Bubby somehow was able to go there and to share with people where she saw the Eibishter in the darkest place on earth. And where the Eibishter performed these open miracles for each and every one of us sitting in this room. The nisim that Bubby Tenenbaum experienced in Nazi Germany was chesed that the Eibishter was performing with all of us, some of us more directly, to be direct descendants and family members of Bubby. But anyone that's taking time today to stop whatever's going on in their busy life, to spend a few minutes giving the final respect to Bubby Tenenbaum is here because they know what it's like to be in a room with Bubby Tenenbaum. They know what it's like to experience her presence, where she's looking at you and you feel like you are the only human being on planet Earth. There's nothing else going on. My Bubby is talking to me right now. My Bubby is asking me how my week in yeshiva was. You know, she would have go-to questions that she would ask. And my theory always is that she would have the same question so that she could really know where you're at based on your version of your response to that question, right? And in yeshiva, if she's asking you, how was your week in yeshiva, if my gewaldig wasn't there in the response, then she would know that was it really gewaldig? How gewaldig was your week in yeshiva? And then as a younger man, she had a go-to question. She would ask me, do you have full-time help in the house? It's a big question. Bubby always wanted to know, do you have full-time help in the house? Now, this wasn't a fact-finding mission. This was Bubby's way of determining how well are you taking care of your wife. Right? She had a very playful nature. There was always a smile or a kibitz or a joke. She would say Evelyn Fons, F-O-N-E-S. She knew how to make a whole nursing home laugh with one sentence. You know, the brilliance of Bubby in making you feel like you're the only you're the only person on planet Earth is that everyone that she interacted with believed that they were her favorite anacle. Now, I really was, but everyone else also really was. It's the most Mishana de Gezach. And like she turned like favorite and best anacle into a status, not into a ranking. It wasn't a ranking system. Everyone just had that status. You know, we talk about the concept of Mesiras Nefesh like it's a Mida Tova. Like, are you willing to be Moiser Nefesh, you know, even without Wi-Fi? Like, that's our modern day concept of Mesiras Nefesh. And we're talking about, we're here to acknowledge a woman who, Mesiras Nefesh, you know, the Divrei Shmuel says, the Torah, the Rav mentioned, Zeh Keli V'Anveyu. Zeh Keli V'Anveyu. Meine Gott. And the Divrei Shmuel, one of them, Slon Merebes,
he would ask, Mitvos is deine Gott? What did you give? What did you give so that the Eibishter is your God? Mitvos is deine Gott. Zek Keli, you claim that he's yours. Bubby gave up everything. She mamish gave up everything and started from scratch. It was mentioned numerous times, starting from scratch and giving everything to build from scratch. And the Divrei Shmuel would say, some people, Zek Keli van Veyu, some people get it b'Yerusha. Everyone has that yachas to the Eibishter. The Eibishter is deine Gott. Some people get it b'Yerusha, and some people are Moser Nefesh. Bubby's first husband, Harav Moshe Irving Bauman, Zecher Tzadik v'Kodesh L'Bracha, together with Bubby started from scratch in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles, Baruch Hashem, has grown to be a massive, thriving Torah digger community. But in the early 50s, there was nothing there. And Bubby and her husband wanted to keep kashrus, so they shechted chickens so that they can keep kosher. And they wanted to have a heimische, fatzeitisch way to be Oved Hashem, and they built an Agudah. There's so much heimische infrastructure in North America today that it's hard to believe that yesterday you could have had a conversation with someone who came to these shores where there was nothing. It's a little bit of a out-of-body experience standing here. I think my brother-in-law mentioned that we thought that Bubby would live forever. We mamish thought that Bubby would live forever. And I don't think that we were wrong about that, because every time we give the attention to our child, every time we give our attention to our spouse, every time we give our attention to the flight attendant on the plane, Bubby is alive in that interaction. When you're in an Uber and you stop and you go in to get a coffee and you ask that Uber driver, can I get you a coffee? Because that's exactly what Bubby would do. That's Bubby alive. You know, the relationship that she had with Ari Tenenbaum was truly extraordinary, exemplary for anyone that wants to be successful in Shalom Bayis. It's been mentioned how they would host Rebbes and Chassidish dynasties and royalty and Chassidim. It's a Moyer de Gezach. And in those instances, you see sort of the palace with all the illuminations of a palace, and it's incredible to witness. I got to witness just a random Leil Shabbos or a Yom Tif, where Bubby would bring Zaidi his hot vore after every single Suda, because that's exactly what Zaidi wanted, and he didn't have to ask for it. The hot vore would just arrive every single time and put that smile on his face, and that would put the biggest smile on her face. My wife sent me some pictures this morning of some of our kids sitting on Bubby's lap and dancing with her, and the glee that you could see in her eyes from interacting with her Einaklach. and the emes Yiddish nachas that she would get every time someone would say just Good Shabbos. For her to hear a Good Shabbos from an Einikel, it was like the most beautiful song that she ever heard in her whole life. I do want to ask Mechila if I didn't call often enough, if I didn't visit often enough. And we asked the Eibishter to wipe away tears. Mocha Hashem lekim dima me'al kol ponim. And being in Bubby's mishpacha, it's very hard to imagine a world without tears. But our hope is that the Eibishter transform those tears, me'eva l'yomtiv, and be able to dance with tears of joy to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meir b'yameinu.
And Nishmas Yehudit Bat Yisrael Shalachal Olama Bavor Shebli Neder Niten Tzedakah V'Adar Askar Nishmata V'Gan Eden Tiyeh Menuchata Lachem Al Harachamim Yasireha B'Set Agnavav Le'olamim btzror Chaim Et Nishmata Adonai Hu Nachalata V'Tanoch B'Shalom Mishkava V'Namar Amen.
front until they don't go again. And I'm going to get my camera at the church bed, and I'm going to go outside. Okay, she'll find mine. Okay? Waiting for you up in the cemetery. Yeah.